Welcome back to the second segment of the ShakeBack Sports Show right here on the BGC Sports Network. It's your boy, Willie Epting Jr. Checking in, baby, live, louder than color. You already know what it is. Thank you guys so much for continuing to rock with the vision that is the BGC Sports Network, as well as the ShakeBack Media Group. Let's go ahead and get into this because we got a lot to discuss here in the second segment. This may even spill over into the third. This second segment, it is being brought to you by... Well, it's the catastrophic flooding in Central Texas that has left a horrific mark on the people, and Convey of Hope is at ground zero to deliver hope to flood survivors. Please help provide immediate relief to those impacted by the Texas flooding through the Convoy of Hope Crisis Relief Fund at convoyofhope.org. Again, that is convoyofhope.org. Okay, we're gonna wrap up the first segment real quickly here, and it was the disrespect that continues to be amongst these so-called GOATs with LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steve Nash, all talking about Michael Jordan and how he wins these MVPs, he wins these finals MVPs, he wins these championships, and then he goes and plays baseball. I just thought it was very distasteful and very disrespectful. So make sure you guys tune in for that. All right. Thank you guys out there for checking us out on Facebook, through my personal page, through Don't Jump Life Coaching Solutions, and of course the ShakeBack Media Group, as well as the BGC Sports Network, LinkedIn, YouTube for the BGC Sports Network, Instagram TV. I see you guys out there watching, and of course Twitter. Thank you guys so much for checking in. I welcome your comments because it's about to get real here in just a second. So everybody should know by now the catastrophic and historic flooding that's been going on in Central Texas. I did talk about it briefly in my last episode. Of course, the last episode was not last week because I was on vacation, so to speak. But I've had enough time to digest it. I've prayed for those victims. I've prayed for those families that have lost loved ones. I have prayed for that entire region as a whole, and anyone that is suffering the loss of loved ones, property, whatever the case may be. That has gone that has been undertaken by my wife and I, no doubt about it. Our church, Antioch Christian Church, the great Pastor Norris, Dr. N.Q. McGill has spoken on it, as well as Executive Pastor Dr. Tanya McGill. They've spoken on it. We've actually had, if I'm not mistaken, there was some sort of prayer. Pastor Tanya did say a prayer right before the announcements at our last service. And I understand that this is not the time to interject politics into this. But let me preface this by saying this, that I am not pointing the finger at politics. I'm pointing the finger rather at leaders with bad policies. And I was freed from the burden of speaking on this when Pastor NQ said that don't blame the people, blame the leaders. You can have great people, but bad leadership. So this is about the terrible leadership that's in place, in my opinion. This is not a fact. I'm not reporting anything. This is strictly how I feel as a Christian, as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a business owner, and all the rest. I'm speaking from that emotion, or from underneath that hat, as a person that wears all of those hats, that has to be a leader in all of those various capacities. That's where I'm speaking from. And that is where I'm going to talk about this from, because it has to be said. Now, again, this is not blaming the parents. This is not saying that they deserve it because they may have voted one way or the other. This ain't what this is about. So I'm setting the atmosphere. I'm setting the narrative on my show that you're not going to come in and do this, whether you hear it when it airs later today on Saturday and all throughout the weekend, or whether you happen to be watching right now, or whether you happen to be watching later when it finally posts. This is not, I'm not going to allow anybody to control the narrative but me. Now, with all that being said, excuse me, I have 13 minutes left to go to get all of this out. So bear with me. Number one, I want to play a couple different things, and I did it in the first segment. And this is the did you see that, or what did he say? That I like to interject some fun into the show. But in this particular instance, it's no laughing matter. And I was going to play it, but I'm not even going to play the sounder at this point. But I will play is a video that is out there on various social media platforms. I think this was from on TikTok. It's a 6-minute long video, but I'm only going to play like maybe 45 seconds of it. So I want you guys to check this out. You know what? I'm just going to stop it right here, because I'm not sure I can even take any more of just looking at that. So I'm going to stop it right there and just begin the conversation, or continue the conversation from this. As a person that, when I was in college in Louisiana, I was a part of the National Guard, right? And there was a flood back in the early 90s, much like this one, that caused a tremendous amount of damage. And I can't remember if people actually lost their lives or not. That part escapes me because it was that long ago. You were talking 30 plus years, right? So, as I remember, as I was getting prepared for this episode and was looking back on it, I was like, man, I have something I can actually speak on this, because I have firsthand experience in doing this. So I remember my boy Steve McLeod and I were working flood duty in one of the more affluent parts of Monroe, Louisiana. And it was the same or should I say it was a similar scene in which people were impacted. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of what's going to happen next going on, and rightly so, because you just don't know. But what I do remember is there being a plan in place that will allow people to get out. And some people, or should I say a lot of people, they chose to stay. And that was their prerogative. But what I'm saying is that I have a little bit of experience to speak on this. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But I want to play this sound from some of the residents at I guess it was a county meeting, or whatever the case may be. So I want to play the sound, and you can hear what the people are talking about.
We do not want more of Biden's mandates attached to keeping Biden's money.
But these people are communists. They hate America. They're teaching it in our schools. They're invading the border as we speak. I don't think we should take any money from the federal government because they can't be trusted.
Now, we don't need these funds here. We've done just fine. And we'll get by without them. But you spend this money, you're signing a contract with the devil, and the devil's in the White House.
If you vote to keep Biden's money, I will hold you personally responsible and personally liable.
The Biden regime has proven to be tyrannical and anti-American. There is no part of this administration that has the good of America or Americans at heart. We want no part in anything coming down from the federal government. This is Texas, and Texans can take care of Texas.
And I don't believe we should take the money. We should not have it. I don't trust our federal government. I don't think that they're truthful with us. And in these days and these times or whatever, we can't afford to make a mistake.
So let's unpack this, because I said in the beginning that I'm not going to make this about politics, but they did. You heard it. Number one, they didn't want to accept the money from the federal government because it was Biden's regime. Biden is a politician. The president is a political position. So they brought it up, not me. So to say, but you know what they didn't do? They didn't send the money back. They kept the money. They just didn't use it on what it was sent to be used for. Why? Because they didn't want the money going to a blue state. That's the reason why. And I when I heard that and saw that, I was like, wow, okay. But I had to struggle with myself, because every part of me wanted to say, well, that's what y'all get. But that's not what this is about. So I had to, guess what? Pull that back and repent over that, because they don't deserve it. Because the leadership, I'm talking about the people that lost, not the actual leaders, the people that lost because of bad leadership. And it is mind-blowing to me how they made it political, but now the same people that made it political are mad at the people that have made it political by saying things like, well, this is what y'all voted for, which is true. They voted for it. That's what they said. That's not what I'm saying. But I understand. So as a man with the kids and a wife and a business and friends and family, and as a Christian, it becomes it becomes a very thin line between trying to stay on the Christian side of it without allowing your flesh to rise up. Because the book that I read says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And it ain't just because of the things that we may be addicted to, or the things that we see with our eyes that may want us to make what somebody else has. It's not the actual windows to our souls that is the transportational highway that leads us to greed and envious and all those things. No, the flesh is weak because there's a part of all of us that wants to say, well, y'all deserve it, but they don't deserve it. Not the people that lost, they don't deserve it. But what really kills me the most is how the leaders of the country are like just escaping any and all accountability. I don't understand it. And it is so, it's not me fear mongering, but it is scary, ladies and gentlemen, because these are elected officials who are like, I've never seen a leader is supposed to go down with the ship. And you don't point the finger at your predecessor, or you don't point the finger at DEI like one of the right-wing podcasters said about the fire chief in Austin, Texas, which is 3 hours away from Kerrville or 3 hours away from Camp Mystic. How do you blame this on DEI? Because guess what? There are women folk in the county government. But I'm not making this about politics. They did. They made it about politics. So the seeds that we plant are eventually going to come for harvest. And what we sow is what we reap. Not necessarily where we sow, but what we sow. So if we are sowing division, discord, schisms, bigotry, prejudice, blaming others, unaccountability, if we're sowing those things, the Bible tells us, and Pastor preached on this last Sunday, the Bible says in due time, you will reap what you sowed. And here we are. So it ain't about politics, ladies and gentlemen. It's about leadership, and the leadership that was elected to these political positions. So it's not the politics that made the decisions, it's the leaders in the political roles that made the decisions. I hope this is making sense, because I wanted to come home here and make sure that I did not disrespect anybody. And it is certainly not my goal to be out here trying to hurt people's feelings. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to share my opinion based on facts, and I'm going to spit facts. And if you don't like the facts, that's not my problem. If you don't like my opinion, I understand. But again, that's not my problem. These are things, ladies and gentlemen, that we have seen. And I want to take a minute for the rest of the segment to just talk about the stories that we didn't see or that we're not hearing. Because in my research and getting prepared for this episode, you could see on different platforms that are not mainstream that talk about hearing kids crying from the river. You can hear about the people crying out for help as the floodwaters just rushed right through wherever they were at Camp Mystic, whether it was whether it was at the camp itself or if it was at bridges that was crossing a very swollen Guadalupe River. Oh, who, by the way, they said is one of the worst floodplains in America. So to say that it ain't about politics, but the politicians knew and didn't do enough to put measures in place to really decrease the amount of risk, that's bad leadership. That led to bad politics, which leads to people pointing the finger at one another. So people that are saying it's not about politics, or people that are mad at the people that are saying it's about politics, they're not the ones that made it about politics. Y'all did by some of these statements and those statements that I just played. Pure and point blank. That's what it was about. The leaders are bad leaders, and their policies are there for self-serving purposes for the most part. Why would you not send the aid money that was purposed for this reason? Why would you not send it back to the federal government? Oh, because you didn't want a blue state to get it, but you wanted to hold on to it and do with the money that you want to do with it. And I actually heard that county or that city got a whole fleet of new vehicles for their law enforcement force. There it is. All right, come on back on the other side of the break. The NFL is coming. Willie Epting Jr., ShakeBack Sports Show. Y'all come back and holler at us.